All right, welcome everybody in the Ayurveda and Women's Health Sisterhood Facebook group, and welcome to our amazing podcast listeners. Today I have a really special person here with us, and that is the beautiful Melissa Alves, and she is going to be talking about healing through trauma. So Melissa has been through her own traumas, which she will be sharing with you, but she is also an intuitive life coach and healer. She empowers women to have the courage to heal from their trauma, remember and awaken to their essence, to embody and elevate all areas of their lives. Melissa's mission is to help raise the consciousness of humanity by guiding women to activate their own healing power. And you know what? I can actually personally vouch for Melissa because she's also become a really dear friend of mine, and she's even the Ayurveda Alchemist Success Mentor, because I just believe in the power of her work and everything she does. So I'm really happy to have her here with us in the studio today. So welcome to the podcast, Melissa.
Thank you, Harmony. I'm super excited to be here. And I absolutely love your podcast and I love everything you're doing. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Ditto, girlfriend. Now, you already know our rapid inspiration questions. So please share your superpower with us.
My superpower is probably, and I've got a lot, we're all superheroes, right? But my one, I think, is really knowing the unspoken. So, and that's where the intuitive abilities come in. It's crazy. I could be having a conversation with you and having two conversations. One is the unspoken. So it's really great and fun to bring into my coaching when the client is talking to me on a topic and really being able to hear the unspoken of what the underlying is. So when they don't have the confidence or the awareness to bring it out, to be able to know that unspoken. So that's probably my superpower.
Beautiful. And what is your favorite quote or mantra?
My favorite mantra that I use a lot is I choose. So whether I have a messy house and I don't feel like vacuuming the floors, it's like I choose to have a nice, clean home. And that just really reframes my mind out of victimhood and out of like, into like an empowered state. So that's my go-to mantra several times a day is I choose ...
I love that. That is really powerful. I choose. And no one has come on and said that is their mantra. So that is very beautifully unique for you, Mel. Love it. And who or what is inspiring you at the moment?
Oh, there is firstly, like, the people that really inspire me aren't the ones, the big branded names, out there doing all the things, the influencers. There are the people that are truly making a change to people's lives every day. Like one of them is you, Harmony. Like you're gonna make me cry already. Oh. You inspire me so much in terms of being so strong in your mission and overcoming obstacles and your own personal obstacles to go out there for the greater good and to go out there and serve. And I have a beautiful friend, Sarah, also through so much adversities in her life, she just chooses to show up and not be stuck in victimhood and use her tools and just be so empowered. So it's just the everyday people that really empower me. And I'm so blessed and lucky to have people like you and her surrounding me in my lives to remind me when I'm in those days of getting stuck, to inspire me to step up even further. So that's who is inspiring me at the moment.
Oh, thank you. Blessed. You're such a beautiful soul. I really appreciate those kind words. So to kick the podcast off, I would love for you to share with us your story on your path of becoming an intuitive life coach and healer.
Okay, I know we've got a limited time and my story can get very big and complex, but I'm going to keep it beautiful, short and sweet. So my journey really, if we're taking it right back, if I'm going up and having a look at how this unfolded, it really went back to when I was young, at about 7, 8 years old, where I was sexually abused by 2 different family members over a period of 4 to 5 years. And then I really look at that sexual abuse at a very young age as initiation into my awakening, into my intuitive abilities, into my compassion, into all those beautiful things. I also went through an emotionally abusive relationship there for 6 to 7 years, where, you know, he used to say to me, oh, are you sure you want to eat that ice cream? You're putting a bit of weight on, to cheating on me, and making me feel like I was an idiot. So that was a very abusive, traumatic time in my life also. And then being raised by my parents, who were from war-torn countries, and they were refugees. They both were refugees in 2 different countries. And, you know, they having their own trauma and couldn't hold a relationship and went their separate ways. And I was raised by my mother, who, you know, now we know years later, she was diagnosed with bipolar. So being raised in that environment with my parents, especially my mother who raised me, who had a lot of trauma, and that being thrown on me, like with her manic states in the middle of the night, moving furniture, and the physical abuse, because that's all she knew. She didn't, you know, understand. So going through so much different types of trauma. And it's not to say my trauma is any more, what's the lack of a better word, like more serious than someone that's going through a lesser trauma. Trauma is trauma. But going through that, and I kind of suppressed it all and sucked it up, and developed that really strong mindset. And I thought I had all my shit together, and I never allowed myself to stay in that victimhood and said, poor me, poor me. I just got on with it. I was really strong. Well, I thought I was strong. I put that mask on of the superhero until I become a mother. And like so many women out there that become a mother, whether they have trauma, whether they have some limiting beliefs, or whatever they have in there, it all just comes out, because going through motherhood, you're in a very vulnerable state. You're exhausted, you're tired, your whole world changed. So all the things that you kind of bottle up and hide away, and you're not even consciously aware, all starts coming up to the forefront. So for me, it all kind of came up to the forefront, where it got really tough, that all my trauma, I was just vomiting, and it really affected my relationship with my partner, to the point where he had left. And at that stage, I was a mother of a baby and 2 toddlers. And that is where shit got real. That is where I couldn't even get out of bed. My house was a mess, and I couldn't even show up for my kids. I couldn't cook them dinner. I couldn't clean my house. I had a friend, Lifeline. She came over to my house and she cleaned my house. She cooked dinner for my kids, made sure I was okay. And in that moment was my absolute rock bottom. You think I'll hit rock bottom with all the trauma I've been to, but no, it's something that when I had my kids, I couldn't show up for myself. I couldn't heal myself. But when it came to my kids, I had to show up. When I was all alone, and these little beings relied on me to survive, I had to learn how to heal, to live, because I was in survival mode. I now know that I was just a functioning depressive being. I was so depressed that I became really, really good at just being strong and doing the things, but I was not. And it was in that point where I went and sought help, that, you know, I can't do it all alone. I went and sought, you know, professional help. I went to mentors, I went to friends, I went to energy healing. I did all the kind of things. And when I came out of it, I really went, fuck, like, this is, people don't talk about it because they're afraid, because and nowadays, actually, it's really open. There's so much support out there, and it's a beautiful thing. But back then, it was, if I had come out, and there's several times I came out where, you know, I was suffering. I had family members saying, she's not a good mum. She doesn't deserve to be a mother. She doesn't love her children, because it wasn't supported. So now coming out of that one, there is so many women that are suffering silently, that they can't find the power within themselves to step up and change and be that powerful being to be that conscious mother. So this is what really drives me. And this is a long answer to one question. This is what really drives me to do the work that I am, to go out there and awaken that healing power within women.
Amazing. Mel, like I've said before, you know, I know your story, and every time I hear it, you choke me up, and my heart breaks every time I hear it. But I know that you don't like people feeling sorry for you. You hate being in that victimhood and that mentality. And this is really hard because you're my friend. I can't even do this one. Ooh, hold it back. I'm gonna get you professional on. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So I know you don't like being in that victimhood. And I really commend you on your path, because I've seen you work really, really hard at healing yourself. And like I said, you are an amazing inspiration to myself and to all of the women out there. And I know deep in my soul that your mission is so clear cut and so true to who you are now, that you're stepping into your own power and your mission to empower women to activate their own healing power. I would love to hear more about how you do this, and in your experience, why do you feel that so many people do not find the peace they are after when they are going through therapy? Like, how are you? I know how you do this different, but for those that don't know you, like, how are you doing this? How are you providing this empowerment, this support to women to really step through this process?
Yeah, I think the difference is knowing that when they go on a healing journey, they look at, okay, I'm going to go to therapy, or I'm going to go to a psychologist, or I'm going to go through the legal system and get justice. And they find that they don't find that peace is because the healing journey it's like a puzzle, right? And all those little things are pieces in the puzzle. So if you're trying to do a puzzle and get to the end, if you're just going to a psychologist, or if you're just going to a therapist, or you're just going through the legal system, you're not going to get to the end of the puzzle, right? So, and you have to think that there is like, it's like, and when I'm trying to wrap it up in a short sentence. So when they go to those things, right, and they go to those psychologists, and they're finding, okay, well, that has got me to a certain point, because I went to a psychologist for 2.5 years, and that was so powerful to a certain point, right? And then because there is so much levels, you've got a body, right? There is the physical body, there's the energy body, the astral body, the emotional body. There's so many different bodies, and the psychologist or therapist only really works on the mental body, right? We all know that energy, emotions are energy. So for the healing journey, we can't just focus on one piece of the puzzle, which is the emotional body. We've got to look at it holistically, right? So I want you to think about this. You are, and this is all scattered focus, Mel. Okay, so they go to a psychologist or therapist, then they might go to, okay, I'm going to go and do some breath work, because that is so powerful. They look for tools. They're going to professional, they're looking for tools. I'm going to go through breath work. I'm going to start going to women's circles. I'm going to start doing meditation. I might do some tapping. I might go for walks. But all that there is tools. So if you're baking a cake, you have all the ingredients, which are your tools. You put it all in your bucket and you're smudging it around, you're turning it around. What does it become? It becomes like dough, right? You are dough. We're not here to be dough because you're just using the tools. We're just using the ingredients. What we're trying to get is to an enlightened, healed, evolved state, which is the cake. Okay, so what you have to do, and what they're missing, is the internal work, that power within themselves. That all out here does help to a certain degree, but the missing ingredient and the missing step really is the power that they hold within. So what is that power? It's the oven, putting it in. It's that fire, it's that heat that is the unseen, because they're looking for tangible things to heal themselves, but it's the unseen, it's the power, it's your soul that bakes the cake with all the ingredients, with all the tools in combination to rise into your empowered state, into your true core essence, which is that beautiful cake. Does that make sense? So that is what I do. I'm not here to tell you something. I'm not here to tell you how to heal. I'm here to hold space, a very safe space where I can see you, I can hold you, for you to ignite your healing power. And your healing power is your essence. Connect back into that, because when you go through trauma, when someone goes through trauma, that is stripped away from you. You're in a state where you're terrified, you're scared, you're unsure, you cannot trust anyone. You're not in an empowered state. You're in a broken state that you're just functioning like a functioning alcoholic. Right. So I'm really here to help them clear that, to clean up the kitchen with all the tools and all the mess, clean up the oven, pop you into the oven in a nice, safe container where you're able to access that power within yourself to then have your own healing, if that makes sense.
100%. And even because I love to bring everything back to Ayurveda,
Yes.
from like that Ayurvedic perspective, it's like you ignite the Agni of the soul. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can hear what you're saying, that it goes much, much deeper than what some people access. And that's where the true transformation happens. And I think being accepting and really real about what has happened as well. I know, we've had conversations in the past about, no, you don't, you're always told to heal, you have to forgive someone. And, you don't want to hold resentment, because resentment's only hurting you. The other person probably doesn't even care or know that you're resenting them. So it is only hurting you. But at the same time, we've spoken about, you don't have to completely be like, oh, I forgive them, but you can lovingly, as you said, let them go and let that, that be the past, and move forward without feeling guilty, because you can't find it within yourself to forgive. And if you don't forgive, you're not going to heal. And all of those type of statements that we hear. And you know what? Everyone's healing journey we know is different. So for some people, forgiveness might be the key. That might be the biggest transformation for them. But healing is not linear. And we've heard that time and time again, and it really is true. So having a really personalized experience and someone holding that personal space with integrity is so important. So can you share with us the effects that trauma can have on someone's health? Like we know their mental health can really suffer for a long, long time, but what other effects does trauma have on someone's health?
Oh, there is so much. Like for me, it was very much, it manifested in so many different ways. It manifested in like anxiety, severe OCD, where I remember as a young child going into bed and like I couldn't put one foot down. I'll get out of bed and have to put the other and tap, tap, and tap. Or when I turn off the light, I had to touch it and touch it and touch it. And when I walk, cracks in the line, I had to jump. And then like it was just really kind of manic. So it was a very severe level of OCD. And over time that, with help and awareness and control, that has somewhat okay. Don't ask my kids or my partner, because I'll tell you otherwise. So it can come out like severe anxiety. I will just get panic attacks and anxiety out of nowhere. Life could be seemingly going really, really well, and all of a sudden I'll have these bursts of anxiety attacks. You can be, like life is okay, and all of a sudden you get waves of sadness, waves of grief, and you don't understand, and you're crying for no reason when nothing has gone wrong in your life. You can have severe insomnia. Like I just thought it was normal for me that I just don't sleep, that I'm a very light sleeper, and it was normalized. But after going through the healing journey and after going through the 6 weeks Ayurveda mind body cleanse with you, Harmony, a few years ago, was the first time in my whole life that I can remember that I have restful sleep now. So like insomnia is a very big one. Avoidance of saying how I feel, avoidance of any kind of situation. I just don't want like any confrontation, any uncomfortable situations, avoidance of large crowds, avoidance of, wearing wearing clothes that show my legs, or I would never wear a top like this or put my hair back. I always kind of wanted to cover. So just avoidance of being seen, avoidance of confrontation, and aggression. Like, you know, I'm a happy-go-lucky person and I'm crazy and I'm fun. And there was a period in my life where, you know, I turned 18 and I started drinking, that when I got drunk, I was so aggressive, I was so emotional, and it came out of nowhere. So if you think that you haven't suffered trauma, because everyone kind of has on a, you know, on different kind of scales, just look at, you know, are these showing up in your life? Are they showing up in your life and you're like, wow, I don't understand why I'm sad, or I don't understand why I'm a really light sleeper, or I don't understand why I get so aggressive and angry every time I have a few drinks. I don't understand why I'm a people pleaser and I say yes and I want people to love me. These are kind of little signs that are showing up that there is unhealed trauma there that's gone on in your life. So that's some of the ways that you can kind of, signs that you can kind of see that have come up. Yeah.
And it amazes me so much when you explain how you were, because I've only ever seen you as like a really high functioning, intelligent, bubbly, you know, woman. And obviously when I first met you, I didn't know that you had any of this trauma in your life, and I would have never guessed, because the way that you present yourself now. So I'm sure that obviously, like, and I have said, like, I've seen you physically still healing through the trauma today, but you're at a much different place than what you would have been prior to us connecting years ago. So what were the steps that you had to take to move through the traumatic experiences from such a young age? Because you said not only were you sexually assaulted by 2 family members for 5 years, you're assaulted by your mother and you're assaulted by your partner. So that is a long, long history of abuse. How does one initiate this healing pathway? How do you get away from that cycle of trauma?
Yeah. For some people, they may have awareness. It's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. For me, it was more like I spoke about, it was like rock bottom. I have to, I've got 3 kids. I've got 3 little babies, that it forced me into my healing journey. So when I look back at my healing journey, and this is why I created my programs, to take people exactly on this, the same path of healing that I did. So when I look back, the first stage, there was 3 stages that stood out. The first stage was the healing. Right. And I did that. So I healed the mind. I got mentally strong. I delved deep into personal development. I found out what my limiting beliefs are, what my triggers are. Had a great awareness of how I was. So I became the observer. I've started healing the mind. And then from the mind, I'm like, okay, great. But then I had to heal my body, because as you know, from an Ayurveda perspective, like, emotions are energy. Right. So we need to heal the energy, and the emotions are getting, even though we can get a strong mindset, our body holds on to that emotion and it turns it into toxins or armor in the Ayurveda sense, right? So you've got all these armor, all these toxins in your body that it's storing. It's the unhealed trauma that is sitting in there, all the emotions that are sitting in there. So for me, it came up through chronic inflammation that resulted in psoriasis all over my head, on my body. I got arthritis at a very young age. I had very dry skins. I had breakouts, like rashes all over my face, adult acne that didn't go. I had gastroenteritis. I had PCOS. And I'm like, why is this all going when I'm living a relatively healthy lifestyle? I didn't understand it, because I was, once you do your mind strong, you're starting to work out, you start eating clean and all that kind of stuff. But, the stuff isn't going, all your health issues are still there. So that is because the armor is stored into the body. So I did the Ayurveda 6 weeks with Harmony, the mind body cleanse, and that really started removing all the armor, all the toxins out of my body that had been stored there for years. And I touched my head and I don't have these lumps of psoriasis. My face cleared up, the arthritis is gone. Like my skin wasn't as dry anymore. My gastroenteritis never flared up. My menstrual cycle was like 28 days, like perfect. And I got my period since I was 11. So I had never experienced that and went, wow, the power of Ayurveda and putting the healing herbs into your body, changing my lifestyle, even though my lifestyle was great, was just taking it up a little bit, like that little bit of notch, balancing myself into the the cycle of nature, and getting into that. So that healing journey was just so potent. And then once I went through that healing journey, then I had to go, okay, now this is all good, and you're going to get on with life. But you're kind of stuck, because I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore, especially as a mum. I did all that healing and I went, well, who the hell am I? What brings me joy? I had lost my identity. I'm feeling good. Everything's good, but who the fuck am I? Right. So then I had to go through a remembrance journey. And, I have worked with many mentors, and they said to me, well, Mel, like, let's go back. Let's do this exercise. What brought you joy? What lit you up at a young age? And I sat there and I really had to think. And it was so sad, because I realized that I don't know what lit me up. I didn't have dreams. I didn't have like, when I grow up, I want to be this. Because when I thought back of my childhood, I was just in a fight or flight mode constantly. I was so scared. And that is because, like, when I was sexually abused, it happened in my own family's household, with family around there. That in my own home, in my own bedroom, where it's someone's sanctuary, where they feel so safe with their parents, while there's parties going on, I was violated in my own bedroom. So I was in fight or fight all the time. I could not put my guard down. I could not be in that joyous innocence of being young. So in that remembrance stage, I really had to go deep. I really had to break through all that and connect with myself on a soul level, and really understand why I came here, who I truly am. So I take women on that remembrance of, behind all the layers and behind the mask and behind society's way of being and who you should be, like, who the fuck are you? So I really take them on that remembrance level and start to change their lifestyle and start to showing up as that person of who they are on a soul level. And the last bit was like embodiment. So it's like, okay, you need to embody. You've done all this work, and we need to embody. And like I said, start showing up as that version, start showing up as that healed version of yourself, as that pure essence of yourself. And I live my life by that every day. I have beautiful morning rituals and beautiful tools around me to remind myself, because life gets challenging, situations get tough, but I remind myself every day of who am I. And it's not to say, okay, I'm having a crap day. I remind myself, I read my things on my mirror and I'm good to go. No, it's reminding myself and holding on to that, even though I feel like not showing up in the day, even though I'm hiding under my blankets and crying, but I still hold that truth of who I am. And that is really doing the work, just holding on to that fire, being that oven, connecting into that fire. Sometimes it's a little dwindle, but you're connecting on and just embodying that. How are you showing up? I choose to show up with love and compassion. I choose to accept the situation I am, and that's bringing in that mantra again. So that's the 3 parts of the stages that I went through to really heal on a deep level. And I'm always healing, but to get me to where I am now, where I'm not going back into that victimhood, that I'm really staying strong. So, and all my programs and one-on-one coaching, I really take women on that journey of the 3 stages.
Mel, I have to say, so many mic drop moments. You need to be on a stage, girlfriend, because you evoke so many emotions in 1 minute. I'm like almost in tears, going, hold the tears back, Harmony. I'm like, and then empowering me. I haven't even been through the types of traumas you've been through, but like just feeling inspired and empowered to step into my better self. And I'm just, yeah, you certainly take this on a journey. So I really thank you for that. And yeah, I'm so excited for you to hold this space for women and help them heal. And I did want to come back to, you've spoken about not being in victimhood a lot of the time. And a lot of women, or I shouldn't just say women, a lot of people on their path to healing, they do fall into that victimhood, maybe because that makes them feel a little bit more safe, because they've always been, they see themselves as a victim, right? I'm not sure, but it is a really disempowering state. We know that. So what is the key to get out of victimhood, to get out of the disempowering state and stand in a strong, empowered state like you have been able to do?
I think the key, when I look back on my journey, the missing key is really just embodiment. Just like exactly what I spoke to, is just embodying. Once you go through all the work, is I see so many people getting caught up in, I am doing the work. Oh, and they're using that word like, oh, that's my trigger, and using it as an excuse for their behavior and staying in that victimhood or staying in their comfort zone. And I love how, quote unquote, spirituality it's really coming out and people are becoming so aware, but they're what I call spiritual bypassing and using it an excuse to stay in their goddamn shit. Like, women, wake the fuck up. Get empowered. You have done the work. You have got the awareness. And it's like, stand in your truth. Because the thing is, and I think Jim Rohn said it really well, like, don't quote me, but I'm paraphrasing, is like, being stuck in your shit is hard. Rising up to that next level of your truth and your evolution is hard. Choose your hard. I choose, going back again to the mantra, I choose to show up as my highest self, as my most powerful self, regardless of what happens. Or I choose to say, I'm waiting for the universe and my guides to give me another sign. I need a clearer sign. This is your sign.
Yes, I love you. Don't get me started on the misinterpretation of spirituality.
Yes.
I'm actually writing blogs and posts about this myself. And as you know, like, to step into your higher self and have optimal health, it includes spiritual health. Like, it is such a core component. You cannot have optimal health and healing without tapping into that spiritual self. But I think there is so many misinterpretations and fluffy crap around what that actually is these days. And that's another thing I really love about you. You bring the real woman. Like, you bring the spiritual woo, but you bring the real, and you bring the logic. And that's also part of, what I really preach in my practice, is bringing the science-backed logic and practicality, but bringing in the essence of spirituality and the truth of who we are. And I think you really do that beautifully for yourself. And I think that's where the hard work and the real work is to be really honest with who you are, how you're showing up, and why you want to show up. Because if you're sitting and staying stuck in that victimhood, you cannot evolve to your higher self. You cannot feel elevated to do all of the things that you are born to do, because you're keeping yourself stuck. And I think when we can realize that, as you say, you are choosing to keep yourself stuck. If you are repeating patterns that you've already repeated and you keep staying where you are, that even if you have self-awareness around that is not growth. That is you choosing to stay where you are. And so you are the only one that can really pull yourself out. And as I always say, about myself, but also to my students in my programs, like, we can't take credit for our clients healing or like getting real on top of their health. It is them, because they're the ones that pull them out. We are the support. We can give them, we can educate them, we can guide them, we can show them the way, but they are the ones that pull themselves out of their funk and show up as their higher self.
Yeah.
I feel you on that one. And what is one belief that you see when it comes to healing, which may be holding a person back on their journey? Like, going back to that belief system and choosing what to believe and choosing how to act, what is one of those beliefs that are keeping them stuck?
I think one of the beliefs in it, and you touched on it earlier, Harmony, that I see is because there's so much, but I think one key is, it's taking back to your point, is, and we spoke about this so many times, is the forgiveness. A lot of people on their healing journey, because people out there saying when you're healing, or when you've gone through trauma, when you've gone through sexual trauma, or violence, or whatever, is I need to forgive that person. And I tried that so much. I've read books on radical forgiveness. I've listened to podcasts. I really try to do the work to forgive. And I found it very difficult, and it kept me stuck for so many years. And then it was weird, because it made me feel ashamed of myself, because I can't forgive. What kind of person are you, Mel, if you can't forgive these family members for sexually abusing you? And the thing was, I realized I do not need to forgive. There are situations like other traumas where my mother, I can forgive her wholeheartedly. I love her. I see her. I understand her, right? I can forgive that. But there are some things that you find it really challenging to forgive. For my instance, it was the sexual abuse for these two family members. And when I do work, they take me back, like, let's forgive. And I'm like, I can't. But I couldn't accept. As soon as I change my mind of, I don't need to forgive, but I can accept of what has happened to me and that situation, that there propelled me. Just changing that, I felt free, I felt liberated. But the acceptance part is hard. It is really challenging to face what has happened and to accept that this, this is my life, and I'm going to pull it up. And I might get a lot of negative comments or people's views, but this is truth. And I'm here to talk about truth, and I share my truth, and people that are ready to hear it will hear it. Some that aren't, it's okay, because that's where the level, everyone's level is. But I always pull myself up from what is happening in the 3D world, right? The humanness, pull myself up to an energetic soul level and look at this. From an energetic soul level is, I incarnated here. And when I did, I sat there and I mapped out my life of everything, all the traumas, all the situations, everything that I'm going to go through in this lifetime. I chose and made agreements with my family members to be sexually abused for however long, at whatever age I was, for a certain reason. And I need to accept that and take responsibility for my part in that experience. And when I took responsibility of my part in that sexual abuse, when I took responsibility for how I was feeling and how I'm going to respond instead of reacting, God, I felt free. Then I could speak about it without being so emotional. Sometimes when I speak about it, I do get teary, but it's not from a victim state. It's just a state of reliving, like, wow, that was powerful. And that's when I take it back to going, that was my initiation to, like, my powers, to my mission on earth. Like, I've always been in an awakened state from a very young age. I've had spirits come to me. I was able to close my eyes and astral travel. I was able to hear thoughts. I was able to do that. I knew that there was other beings in the universe. Let's get more crazy, like aliens, and that we come from all different things. Like, we are part of source, right? That was my initiation into it. And when I accepted all that, that is when, on a higher soul level, that is where the healing was. So I didn't have to forgive. I just had to accept my life and chose to be here and the experiences that I went through. So anyone that is listening today that is struggling on forgiveness, if you're finding it really tough to forgive, just throw the forgiveness. I'm telling you right now, you do not need to forgive. You need to accept, and that is a journey in itself before the healing. So just whatever you need to do to accept what has happened to then be able to move forward.
Brilliant, beautiful. And I just want to go back to when you said that you have accepted your responsibility, referring to the sexual assault. Are you're referring to your soul being prior to you being like on this earth, that your journey was already mapped out, and then you have accepted the responsibility of how you're reacting after the fact? I just wanted to make that really clear to the audience, that you're not saying that you felt responsible for the act in that moment. You are saying, as a soul being, before you came here, there was a responsibility of how your life was going to be mapped, and then you also are responsible after the fact of how you have responded and acted and moved through your healing. Is that how what you were getting across, or have I got that wrong?
No, 100%. And this is me going on tangent. So thank you for really pulling that back, because I didn't want my message to get, misconstrued. But yeah, definitely taking responsibility for, one, designing my life here on this earth, and two, taking responsibility for how I'm responding instead of reacting to the situation. Reacting is staying in victimhood. Reacting is staying in poor me, which I did for so many years. But then taking the responsibility to, okay, how can I turn this pain and transmute those lower frequency energy and vibrations into higher, by doing the healing work, by remembering and responding to life and not projecting my pain on anyone else. So really taking that responsibility and accepting that that is my responsibility for what has happened in my life.
Beautiful. And just a couple of more questions. I won't keep you too much longer, but I'm sure everyone's just like, you've got people's attention. Like, you were speaking so much beautiful truth and helping and already empowering so many women, I think, just through this podcast episode. But for someone who is listening and they are on their journey of healing from trauma, what is one thing that she can do to help activate her inner healer if she's not ready to go to a healer? What would your first step advice be? And then maybe that would give them the power to then move forward to see someone who can help them on their journey.
Okay, so for the woman that is just not ready there, that you've just come to the realization or the awareness has come out to go, oh my God, that there's this trauma come up, because like me, I didn't remember till I was a teenager. So if you're that person that this is all coming up, and it can be very confronting, it can be very scary, and it can be a very emotional time, the most simplest thing that I can tell you to do right now, before you go seeking for help and all that kind of stuff, is just really, like we spoke about, just accept what has happened. Use the mantra to do, today I choose to just love on myself and be in the present moment. I think, it's so simple, but the power of just being in the present and finding peace within right here, right now, not with your emotions that's going on, not with everything that's going on, but taking it back to your breath and taking deep breath in and out and being in that present moment and shutting everything out, does start activating that power within, because you're silencing everything, you're accepting, and you're cutting through the noise, and you're turning that oven up so it starts to kindle, it starts to get a little bit warm. So what you're wanting to do is start warming that inner power, and that is coming back to you. It's like clearing the path and finding your way back home. And that only ever happens by just being in the present. Even if and I know especially this time of year, it's manic. We spoke about it before the podcast. I mean, it's manic, it's crazy. And if you're going through this as well, it's even more heightened. Just like while you're driving, just stop at the red light, just breathe, stare at the cloud. What is 1, 2 things that you can see? What is 2 things that you can hear? And saying, I choose to be present. I choose to be strong. I choose to be whole. And that is like the most simplest thing you can do to start coming back and activating that power, start warming that power within.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, Mel, I so appreciate you in so many ways. And I feel really honored that you have come and shared your story with us and been completely vulnerable and empowered us and inspired us and made us cry and made us laugh and all the things that you only you can do. I just really, truly appreciate you sharing the wisdom with us. What is one takeaway or quote that you would like to leave us with today?
That healing is not linear. Exactly like you said earlier, healing is not linear. Healing is your own personal journey, and do not let anyone tell you how you should be, where you should be, what you should be doing. Just connect back in. And if you feel like shit and you want to cry, do that. If you're feeling empowered, do that. And knowing that on your healing journey, you're going to be healed, you're going to be empowered, but sometimes you come back, and that is okay. Then you propel forward. It is not a, I feel shit and I'm going to feel enlightened. It's just like a blah, 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 blah. But that, yeah, it is not linear, and do not let anyone tell you how your journey should be. So that's what I want to leave the listeners with today.
Thank you. And where can our listeners find you if they would love to learn more about you, to work with you?
Yeah, so best place to catch me is on Instagram. Handle is I am Melissa Alves. So at the moment I'm creating a lot more services and products. So just keep an eye out, because I will be putting that out there. But Instagram is my home for business.
Beautiful. And melissaalves.com is the website as well, which will be in the show notes. So thank you once again. Really, really appreciate you and coming on and sharing your story with us. Much love.
Thank you, Harmony. Bye.